Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, part 3 of the Bank Feeds series, where we will look at how to import your transactions into your Bank Feeds module. My name is Abby. I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. Now it is just myself on today, so please do bear with me. If you do have any questions, I will try my best to answer them live on the session. If I don't get a chance to, then what I'll do is I will just contact you via email after the session has ended. The session is booked out for around 45 minutes. I don't think we're probably going to need that full 45 minutes, but if we have any questions outstanding at the end, then obviously we'll keep that going. We may end up only needing around half an hour. Please note, you will receive a link to the recording around an hour after the session has ended, so if you need to revisit any of the content that you've seen today, then you will be able to do so. If you can't wait the hour, we do have links to the recordings on our help centre. You can just visit that by going to sage.co.uk/webinars. Okay, so again, just a little bit of housekeeping that we do on every session. When you join, you will be muted automatically. If you want to ask any questions, you just use the little speech bubble icon with a question mark in the middle and send your questions across to me. If you want to download the handout for today, then you can just click on the little icon that looks like a little document with the folded corner, and that will allow you to download today's handout. Okay, so I talk about this on all of my my sessions when it comes to bank feeds. So we do have 3 parts of the bank feed series. We've got part 1, which is all about automatic feeds. So that's if your bank is compatible. Then you can attend part 1, and we'll talk all about how to set up your bank feeds and then how to process using automatic feeds as well. And then part 2 is all about creating and managing rules and approvals. So this can automate postings of transactions as they are downloaded from your bank. And it does that by you set a certain criteria, and when the transaction is downloaded or imported and it hits that criteria, it will create the transaction for you. It can go to approvals first before it's actually posted, or if you're confident, you can set it to be posted automatically. But we are covering those sessions in the new year, so keep an eye out for those as well. And then obviously part 3, which is the session we're on today, you do need to be on version 30.1 and above to be able to use this feature to be able to import in what we call manual feeds. Usually this is typically utilised when your bank is not compatible with downloading bank feeds. So it just gives you the ability, that flexibility as well, to be able to use this functionality even when your bank is not compatible. But again, keep an eye out for those future sessions coming in January. If you can't wait until then and you haven't yet attended part 1 or part 2, then we do have the recordings available on our help centre. Just off the back of that as well, we do have a banking badging event coming up in February where we'll be covering these sorts of topics as well. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering on today's session. So we're going to do a brief introduction into using bank feeds. And then we'll do some demonstration. So I'll do a live demonstration on importing your transactions. Then I've got some video demonstration to show you on how to process when you're in bank feeds as well. And then towards the end of the session, I'll just briefly go over some upcoming webinars as well. Okay, so let's take a look at what it might look like if you are manually reconciling your bank account. Whether that be through the software or not, you may be accessing your statements online and printing them off, or you may receive them via post. You may have a lot of transactions, so your statements are long, or you may have a few months worth of reconciling to do if it's been a busy period, which could lead to a lot of paperwork on and around your desk. You'll be cross-referencing what's on your Sage software or creating new transactions and then looking at the statement and then ticking them off as you go. Now, if you're using bank feeds, all that information is displayed in one place on the screen. So there's no need for printed statements or flicking between browsers or PDF documents, then back to the Sage software. You can match the imported transactions from your bank to either existing transactions, create new ones with a click of a button, or use rules to post them automatically for you. Then once you've matched all the relevant transactions, it will take you to the normal Bank Reconcile screen, and all of your matched transactions will already be in the match section of the Bank Reconciliation window. So you can see you can automate a lot of your processing just by using bank feeds. Okay, so let's take a look at manual bank feeds activation. So manually importing bank transactions, you can do this now from any bank, and it was introduced in version 30.1. And what that does is it imports those transactions directly into your bank feeds module. You might be wondering, well, why would I use this option? So it might be that an automatic feed may not be supported, but it allows you to still use bank feeds module for if you have other compatible banks that are using a live feed. You can also import transactions with an earlier date than what could be downloaded through bank feeds. So if you are using automatic feeds, and it might be that you're doing this process for the first time, and it might be that your predecessor didn't do bank reconciliation in the software. So bank feeds, automatic bank feeds, allows you, some banks only allow you to download the last 90 days. Whereas if you can get access to those transactions from your bank and download them in a file format, you can import them into Sage, and it just helps you speed up being able to reconcile those older historical transactions a lot quicker. Now, the benefits of being able to import your bank transactions, now you still get, although you're using manual feeds, you still get access to the same functionality as automatic feeds. So you can use auto match and manual match, create and apply rules to imported transactions, ignore transactions, and also as well process recurring items. And also as well, you've got the option to import from any date range that you have access to from your bank as well. So what I'll do now is I'll go through the first part of the demonstration on how to set up manual feeds. So I'm going to switch to my software. So I'm going to go into bank feeds to start with. So you can see I've already got one that's connected. So this is an automatic feed, and this will pull the transactions from my bank for me. But we're going to do manual feeds. So we're going to do this with the bank 1210. So I'll just get started. When you click get started, you always get the option, do you want to use import or do you want to connect to your bank? So obviously today's demonstration is going to be importing. So I'm going to click import statement. Okay, so when you click on that, you will be presented with this window here. And it just gives you a little bit of information, seamless integration, bank feeds, rule setup. It's a guided process. And also as well, you can connect later and I'll show you that in the demonstration as well. Okay, so if you do want any help as well, you've got also, don't forget, you've always got the option for help in the top right, or you can click F1 on your keyboard. You've also got the option to skip this page next time as well. So we'll click continue. And you're going to be presented with this window here. So let's make it a little bit bigger. So you've got the option to upload your file. Now we do support these file formats, and these files can also be identified by the following extensions as well, so it just helps you identify the file a little bit easier. Now, if you are importing a CSV, an Excel file, it does need to contain specific headers, but we have provided an import file guide as well, depending on what your file looks like. Now I'll show you what my file looks like before we upload it. So let me just quickly drag this over. So this is what you can expect to see if you're using a CSV with 3 columns. So you can see if you're used to, if you've used the normal import transactions option outside of bank feeds. And that has a lot more information in comparison to when you're importing your transactions into bank feeds. So all it needs is the date, what the reference is, and the amount as well. So we'll just close this down because we do need to close it down to be able to import it. So we'll just click on select a file from your device. And I'll get my file. So we'll click to review transactions. So it does ask here, so we need to know how the data are displayed in your file so we can import your file correctly. So ours is the UK way, so the date, month, year, and then we'll click continue. Okay, so you can see here it's asking us to review the transactions. So it tells us how many transactions, what the date range is. We've also got the option as well, if you click on here, it might be that your transactions are showing the opposite way, so it's positive and when it should be a negative, vice versa. Instead of having to amend that file, because you shouldn't have to actually amend anything in that file, unless you might need to add in extra columns. But if there is an occasion where you need to switch the transaction type, so negative to positive, you can do it at the click of a button here. So you can see here I can review my transactions. So I can see I've got a couple of pages. So what I'll do is I'll just put all of those on one page. I can come in here so I can see the date shown here, the description, which is the bank reference, it's telling me if it's money in or money out. And you can see the values as well. So you can see that anything money going out is in red. If you're happy with what's on the screen there and you're happy to import, click confirm import. Shouldn't take too much longer. Doesn't usually take this long, but I have been having technical difficulties with my laptop today, so please do bear with me. There we go. So import complete. We've got 26 transactions and it's given us the date range as well. So you close that window, it'll do a refresh. And you can see here I've got auto matched, already picking up transactions to be matched. So we've got those transactions in there. The ones on the left are your bank transactions. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop back to my slides. And what we'll do is we'll go through each area of the bank feeds. So bank feeds is a simple process. It can be broken down into 3 easy steps. So what I'll do is I'll go through each area, and at the end of each area, I will then play a video demonstration on how to utilize that area. So the first area is the Auto Match tab. So any Sage transactions with the same value or date, give or take 4 days, will become a suggested match. Now, don't worry if it isn't, it might not be correct. So you can unmatch as well. So you don't have to go ahead with that, and it will wait for you to confirm or unmatch. But like I say, if you do unmatch them, they will just be moved to the manual matching, so the to be matched tab, which we'll come on to later in a moment. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look at the first demonstration of the Auto Match tab.
The Auto Match feature will match any transactions downloaded from your bank account to any existing Sage transactions. They need to have the same value and have a transaction date within 4 days of any transactions already entered into your Sage accounts. You can filter the downloaded transactions by date. To do this, at the top of the window, choose the date you want to include transactions up to, and the transactions will filter automatically. There are 2 parts to the screen. On the left, the bank transactions which have been downloaded from your bank, and on the right, the transactions entered into the Sage bank account manually. You can specify what information you'd like to include on the Sage transactions. To do this, use the drop-down menu at the top right. This can help identify transactions, for example by including details such as the transaction number, the extra reference, and the transaction details. Matches are indicated by the green link between the transactions. Here you can confirm if they're correct by clicking on Confirm, and this will transfer them to the Confirmed tab. You can unmatch transactions if an incorrect match has been made, and once unmatched you can manually match the transactions within the To Be Matched tab. We'll show you this in step 2. You can also confirm all transactions at the same time by clicking Confirm All. For transactions where there is more than one possible match, the potential transactions are presented. You can view the potential matches and choose the correct transaction.
Okay, so once you've confirmed the auto match transactions, you can then move on to manually matching the remaining transactions. So manually matching enables you to match multiple transactions, not just on a one-to-one basis. So it could be one bank transaction to one Sage transaction, could be one bank transaction to many Sage transactions, could also be many bank transactions to one Sage transaction, and many to many. But once that balance matches, it will automatically move to the Confirm tab, which we're going to be covering in a moment. If the relevant Sage transaction does not exist, you can create it at the click of a button without leaving the bank feed screen. If you've realised you've forgotten to process recurring transactions, any missing recurring items can be created from within the bank feeds module. Now, I will mention we've got bank feeds rules. This kind of replaces recurring items. So it works for some people. People prefer to use bank feeds rules. Some people just prefer to use the recurring items. But you've got either option there. You've also got the option to ignore transactions, to hide them from the bank feeds window, with the option to restore. Let's take a look at the To Be Matched tab. Again, if you do have any questions, do pop them across to me and I will pick those up for you.
Next, we'll take a look at the To Be Matched tab. In-Product Help will appear again with instructions and video demonstrations to help you with the transition to the new Bank Feeds module. Transactions shown here could not be auto-matched with any existing transactions in Sage. This allows you to manually match the remaining transactions. Searches can be applied for both bank and Sage transactions, and sorts apply to the transaction lists, including by date, amount, reference, type, or revert to default. Manual matching allows you to match multiple transactions, not just on a one-to-one basis. For example, this first transaction here has been processed as two separate transactions in Sage accounts. We can match this single transaction to both of the Sage transactions. To do this, either highlight the transactions to be matched and select Match Selection, or you can click and drag between two transactions to form the transaction link. If there's only a part match, you will see the orange indicator or part match badge on the transaction link. Once the full match is achieved, the transactions will move to the Confirm tab. Manual matching can be done for multiple transactions. If you're dragging to form matches, once the balances from both the bank account and the Sage transactions match, as shown here, they will move to the Confirmed tab automatically. The alternative again is to highlight all of the transactions and click Match Selection. Matching can also work the other way. One Sage transaction might comprise of two transactions downloaded from your bank. Again, we can drag to form the transaction links or highlight all transactions involved and click Match Selection. Providing the selected difference is 0, this will match them and move them to the Confirm tab. From the To Be Matched tab, you can also create any missing transactions. Click the Create option on the bank transaction and choose the type you'd like to create. Enter the transaction details, and this can also allocate the payment to an outstanding invoice if applicable. This can also apply if we have part of a transaction entered into Sage accounts but part is missing. We can match the transaction and then select Create to create the missing element. Here we have a part match for £1,000. We can then click Create and process a transaction for the missing £273.08. Within this window, if you realise you have recurring items missing, you can also view your recurring items and process these without leaving the Bank Feeds window. This will add them to the Bank Feeds window to be manually matched. Should you wish to ignore a transaction, for example, if it's a duplicate, highlight the item and click Ignore Selection. This can be reinstated if required. To view the ignored transactions, click View Ignored, and to reinstate these to the To Be Matched window, select Restore. It's important to note that if you leave the Bank Feeds window at this point, all matches will be lost and the matching process will need to start again. This will not, however, undo any transactions created during the Bank Feeds process up to this point.
Okay, so lastly, the third part of the Bank Feeds process is the Confirmed tab. So this allows you to review all confirmed matches, and it also allows you to create rows, and from here you can save and close or save and continue to the reconciliation window. Now, if you do save and close or go into save and reconcile and those transactions are reconciled or they've just been moved to the reconcile window, if you choose to unmatch them outside of Bank Feeds, they will not then go back into bank feeds, and you will have to manually match them out, either the normal way through bank reconciliation or editing that transaction. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look at the last video demonstration.
The final step is to review all confirmed transactions before proceeding to bank reconciliation. This allows you to review transaction matches and double-check your data before saving. By highlighting a match, you can clearly see and check the Sage transactions and the bank transactions that have been matched against one another. There is the search feature for easily locating transactions, and you can then make any amendments or unmatch any incorrect transactions, sending them back to the To Be Matched tab if required. In addition, from this window, we have the option to create rules. Bank feeds rules can help automate your processing even further. You can set up specific rule criteria and provide posting details to be applied to transactions. Each time a transaction downloaded from the bank matches the set criteria, a Sage transaction will be automatically created, saving you time and reducing the risk of human error. There is also the option to export all confirmed transactions into a CSV file should you need to do so. Finally, we have the option to save. Save and close will save your progress, transferring all transactions to the match box of bank reconciliation. It allows you to come back to the reconciliation step at a later point through bank and reconcile. If you're ready to reconcile immediately, then use the option to save and continue to reconcile. This will save progress and immediately open bank reconciliation for you. Enter your statement details, and you can then see your transactions which have been matched during bank feeds are already in the matched box. Once you're happy with your bank reconciliation, click Reconcile to flag these transactions as reconciled.
Okay, so as the last part of the demonstration before we summarise, I just want to show you the couple of things. So the first thing is if you want to then connect your imported bank statement, or rather this one here, where you've imported your transactions. If your bank then becomes compatible, you can then, instead of setting up a new feed and connecting it that way, you can simply come into the existing feed, come into the three little dots in the top right hand corner. Now you've got the option to connect to an automatic feed here. So it saves all your rules, it saves everything that's already in there. You're just simply connecting to an automatic feed. If we pop to the home page, and you can see here I've got the bank account for the connected. You can see for the imported, it tells me it's import only, and it tells me the last date that it was imported as well. You've got some settings on this homepage as well. So if you go in the top right, you've got some generic settings. So if you're using automatic feeds, if you've got, like I say, if you've got multiple set up, you can set it is set as 7 as default. You can do a download now if you've got a bank feed connected automatically. And then also as well, there's an option which is switched on automatically. So it's the auto match option. It is enabled as default, but if for whatever reason you just wanted to disable that, you could do that from within there. If you wanted to disconnect a bank feed, you simply go into the settings cog on the individual tile. You can see the status from here. You've got the option to flag transactions created from bank feeds rules to be marked as bank reconciled. You can got that flag there. And then the option just to remove that bank feed, then you can just click disconnect bank feeds here. If we pop into the automatic feed, so we'll just wait for this to open. And then if you see along the top here next to your download option, you've also got the option to import for if you need to use that option. Again, the option that the example that I gave earlier, was if you were reconciling earlier historical transactions. Okay, so that is the Bank Feeds import feature, giving you flexibility to use bank feeds when an automatic feed may not be available, but enabling you to still be more proficient with your bank reconciliation. So what I'll do now is I'll pop back to my slides. And we'll summarize the session. So Bank Feeds saves time and reduces manual entry. It's free to use from us and the bank. You can set up rules to automate your processing, and with the option to approve automatic postings. So you've got two options there, but like I say, I would recommend getting registered for those sessions to find out more. Foreign banks are supported, and in-product help and support is available if you need that as well. I've also included a link for the Bank Feeds Hub along the right-hand side there. And also as well, if you've got the handout downloaded, you've got a link to the webinar recordings as well. And that's if you've missed the part 1 and part 2 and you wish to rewatch those and you can't wait until the new year, then that is available for you to watch as well. Okay, just while I wait for any further questions to come through, I haven't had any come through at all as of yet. So if you are interested in bespoke one-to-one training on your 50 account software, we do offer various training bundles, including banking. So if you wanted to, improve your knowledge on bank reconciliation and just working with the bank in general, that is part of one of the bundles that we do. For a personalised quote, you can contact our team on UKI Sage University at sage.com. Okay, so I've already mentioned the Bank Feed series. We also have What's New in version 31 as well. We've got various dates for that. And then other sessions we've got coming up as well. We've got corrections series, so invoice and orders, stock. We're also covering global changes, festive messaging on your invoices, foreign trader, and also as well batch changes. So if you want to know how to batch change records in your software, then you can attend that session as well. If you want to check out what other sessions we do also have, we can visit sage.co.uk/webinars. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's session. Please feel free to stay around. If you do have any outstanding questions, there's nothing come through as of yet. But if you have got what you need today and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to if needs be. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. If you could please let us know any comments or feedback on today's session, because it is a relatively newer session. We haven't done this for as long as the other sessions. If you could pop on a little comment or feedback, what you liked and what could have been done better. We always look at ways to improve our sessions. Okay, so no questions have come through. So what I'll do is I'll wrap this session up. I want to say thank you to you all for your participation today. And just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks. So don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.